Kashmir Shaivism is a non-dualistic teaching, just like Vedanta. But are they teaching the same thing? Recently, a famous Vedanta teacher has offered a criticism of Kashmir Shaivism. You will find the link in the description. Here, I would like to offer an answer. His criticism is based on a book by the Indian philosopher Chandradhar Sharma. His point is saying that Kashmir Shaivism and Vedanta both acknowledge consciousness as ultimate reality. Consciousness is the ultimate reality. And he agrees with Kashmir Shaivism as a Vedanta philosopher. But, he adds, Kashmir Shaivism also says that consciousness has another side to it, which is also absolute. And this is self-consciousness, or vimarsha in Sanskrit. For in Kashmir Shaivism, consciousness has those two sides. Consciousness, the knowledge of things, or just pure knowledge, pure thing, permanent, eternal, one, simple, and also self-awareness. That is accounting for the dynamism that manifests as everything, as this whole world. So, according to the Vedanta point of view, this is wrong. Because prakasha, consciousness as a simple light, is true, but vimarsha, or self-consciousness, is not true. This is the mind. This is illusion. This is manas. This is maya. This is not reality. So here, Vedanta does not agree with Kashmir Shaivism. They agree about consciousness, prakasha, or Brahman, but they disagree about what Vedanta calls maya, illusion, or manas, the mind. Let us address here briefly those criticisms. The first one is that consciousness and self-consciousness should be seen as separate. Consciousness is ultimate. Self-consciousness is accidental, secondary. It is just like a reflection on the mirror of consciousness. It is not real. It is not ultimate. It has some degree of reality according to different schools of Vedanta, but it's not ultimately real. Well, according to Kashmir Shaivism, self-consciousness is not at all an accident, a secondary propriety that has come upon pure consciousness. Rather, it is the very heart of consciousness. And why? Because they say, the great philosophers of Kashmir Shaivism, like Utpal Deva and Abhinav Gupta, they say, but what would be consciousness without self-consciousness? Is it even consciousness? Is it possible? That would be like a mirror without reflections in it. A mirror without reflections in it is just not a mirror. It's just a bad mirror, a very bad mirror. Because a mirror is what does the work of a mirror. If you buy a mirror and it does not bear any reflections in it, it does not reflect anything, well, you said this mirror has something wrong. It's not a mirror. It's a piece of wood, stone, whatever. It's just not a mirror. A mirror must have the power to reflect things, to give reflections, to be a mirror. And just the same, consciousness that has no self-consciousness is a consciousness that is not conscious of herself. And at the same time, according to Vedanta, it is not conscious of anything because nothing is real. Nothing is really there. It's pure consciousness, Chinmatra, pure consciousness. Drishimatra, Ringmatra, just pure seeing. There is nothing to see, but it does not see herself, just like a light, a ray of light, when there is nothing to enlighten. So the light is just not visible, but it's there. But Kashmir Shaivism would say, well, this consciousness that is not aware of anything outside, that is not aware of anything inside, that is not self-aware, is not awareness at all. It's unconscious consciousness. And this definition, this description, fits rather things, matter, objects, not consciousness. So Vedanta is completely missing the point. And actually, if you think about it, it means that Vedanta is just materialism. What it takes as consciousness, pure consciousness, is just pure matter, just pure inertia. And so the second point of criticism is that self-consciousness creates dualism, separation within consciousness. So it cannot be the essence of consciousness. Because they say, if there is self-consciousness, there is duality, there is separation between consciousness and self-consciousness. Just like when I see the tree and the tree, two things separate. So duality. So unity would be lost if there is self-consciousness in the absolute, ultimately. But Kashmir Shaivism answers, well, see, when I look at the tree, there must be some duality, maybe, even that can be discussed. Between me and the tree, there is a subject, me, consciousness of the tree, the object, two things. The subject, the object, me and the tree. Me looking at the tree and the tree being looked at. Well, but in the case of self-consciousness, if I turn upon myself and I become aware of awareness, aware of me, in fact, not aware of my body, not aware of my thoughts, but just aware of me, just feeling me. I do not find that this feeling of me is different from me. In fact, it's two words describing the same reality. When I turn upon myself, it's me. And me is awareness. And this awareness is awareness of me. And this awareness of me is me. I mean, Kashmir Shaivism mean there is no need to go outside to turn 180 80 degrees and to come back upon yourself. It's not like that. It's just that being aware of anything, you are at the same time self-aware. And this self-awareness does not imply a separation. It's just like when you touch with the hand. I touch things. So I feel the table. I feel this table. But at the same time, I feel my hand feeling the table. And when I say I'm feeling the table, what I'm really saying is that I feel my hand being affected by the table. And so I always feel my hand. My hand feeling things always is feeling itself. Does that mean that the hand is coming out of itself, turning 180 degrees and coming back upon itself to touch itself? And when I feel my hand, there is a second hand coming out and touching the hand. No, of course not. It's very much more simple than this. I touch my hand, there is no duality here. There are no two hands, just one and the same hand is being touched and is touching. In fact, it's two ways of describing the very same experience. Just like that, self-consciousness does not imply duality between a consciousness that would be conscious and another consciousness that would become the object of consciousness. No, it is self-consciousness, no duality there. And this is proven by our very experience. So here also the criticism is wrong. And third, and this is perhaps the most telling criticism, Vedanta says, well, but if there is movement, there is change. If there is change, this is not real. Because what changes, what comes and goes, what is not always there, is never there. What does not always exist, never exists. What is not always present is never present. And so everything that changes is not real, is not ultimate, is only seemingly real. And that is Maya, and that is Shakti, and that is the level of self-awareness. That is the level of appearances, reflections, moving things, because they move, they're not real. But this is not at all what experience tells us. What experience tells us is that all this manifestation is a continuation, an extension of the inner vibration of I am, of self-awareness. So, of course, self-awareness is not a movement like the movement of this hand going from one side to another side, from one place to another place. It's not like that. It is a movement, but without movement. And what movement it is? It is freedom, svatantriya, the capacity to move by yourself. And even in the contracted state of individuality, it is there. And this is called free will. And this is why we are not just some things among things. And this is why there is a moral value, there is a dignity to conscious beings. And this is why there is good and bad. And this is why there is love, and this is why there is life. And this is what Vedanta wants to exclude, because Vedanta is not non-dualism. Vedanta is extreme dualism, because it separates pure consciousness from everything, from life, from you, from individuality, from desire, from love. There is no love in the absolute of Vedanta. There is nothing. There is pure whatever, but it's just nothingness, just nothingness. Of course, consciousness is always there, but it acknowledges only the passive aspect of consciousness, what they call the witness, the powerless witness, impersonal, just like a piece of stone, just like a piece of stone. It has no consciousness. So really, Vedanta is the extreme state of delusion of identifying yourself to a state of thoughtless sleep. What Vedanta is doing is absolutizing, idolizing, making an idol of the deep sleep state. Out of the different states we go through, like waking, dreaming, sleeping, they take out sleep. They say, here there is nothing, no change. So there is no duality. So this is the ultimate. This is the self. This is your true nature. Everything else is illusion. How do you explain illusion? We don't explain. We explain away. We don't need to explain because it's not real. Why is it not real? Well, we don't know. Vedanta does not answer all those questions. No explanation. So Vedanta is not non-dualism. It's not even a kind of philosophy. So what the Swami says in this answer that you will find the link to in the description of this video is completely wrong. Is completely wrong because really Vedanta is not a philosophy. Kashmir Shaivism is a philosophy. And last point, the role of revelation, scripture. There is no Vedanta without the Mahavakyas, without the Upanishads. The Shabda Pramana, the revelation, is the first mean of knowledge. So it's really not a philosophy. If you don't believe in the Upanishads, if you don't take seriously the words, the great sayings, seriously, you're lost, according to Vedanta. Whereas Kashmir Shaivism also includes scriptural authority, but it is not first. It is first based on experience. So far from what the Swami says here, Kashmir Shaivism is more coherent, has strong arguments, is more complete and more satisfying. In short, Vedanta tries to establish unity by excluding everything. So it's very much a dualism, like Samkhya. Actually, Vedanta is Samkhya. It's just the same thing in a new garb. But really, it's just the same philosophy, the same structure, which is not really a philosophy. Because to really reach non-duality, it must ultimately, finally rely on the authority of the Upanishads. By itself, it just gets to the Samkhya point. The pure witness, everything is changing. But to say that there is only me, it must finally rely and just accepting. This is the final pramana, the scriptural authority of the Upanishad. Tattvamasi, because it is like that, you must accept it. Of course, there is a preparation, but the final step can only be taken by relying on the scriptural authority of the Upanishad, the Vedanta. So the whole Vedanta is based on Vedanta, on an argument of authority, not on reason, not on experience. Whereas Kashmir Shaivism is based on experience. And experience is helped in the second step by reasoning and scriptural authority. The Tantras and also the Upanishads, they come last, just to give support, to give meaning, more meaning to experience. But everything is first of all based on experience. That is why concretely, it's a fact that according to Vedanta, you cannot reach spiritual realization without the Vedanta. Whereas, according to Kashmir Shaivism, you can very much reach awakening, spiritual realization, just by intuition, spontaneously. And then later on, you can be validated, confirmed by the scriptures. But the scriptures are not necessary because everything is dependent on grace, and grace is very much coherent with the idea that consciousness is freedom. If consciousness is free, why would the scriptures be necessary? Why? Consciousness is free or not free? No. In Vedanta, consciousness is not free. It is a powerless witness depending on the scriptures. So all that is not very coherent. The arguments are not very coherent, and the end result, is not very much satisfying. The whole world is rejected, life is rejected, the body is rejected. Whatever makes you human is rejected, and you end up in a kind of nothingness. So really, which non-dualism is more coherent? Is it really the case that Kashmir Shaivism is just a mere collection of experiences and techniques? But what of the philosophy of Kashmir Shaivism? Pratyabhigya, recognition. What of its hundreds of pages of sound arguments based on common experience? Of course, the Swami could say, yes, but why then Vedanta seems to be more resilient to skeptics' arguments? Well, I would say because itself is a form of skepticism. It says nothing. Of course, it cannot be refuted by the skeptics. It has nothing to say, actually, because its definition of consciousness is just like the definition of matter. So it's just a form of dualism, a form of materialism, and a form of religion, not really a philosophy. So this is how I would answer to the criticism offered by the Swami, very interesting, and the criticism offered by Chandradar Sharma in his very interesting book on different forms of Indian non-dualism. Thank you.